I got to say, with the Colts, they didn't really do much in the offseason, but I'm kind of intrigued of what they could potentially bring to the table in 2022. But before we discuss that, we got to look back at 2021. How did they even get to this point? And, it couldn't have been this way had things not gone down the way it went. And they were 3-5 to start the 2021 season, but behind Pro Bowl running back Jonathan Taylor, who went berserk in 2021, and that very, very good defense, they overcame that 3-5 start. They won their next 6 to 7 games, and they had 2 opportunities. They were on the verge of clinching a playoff berth in week 17 and week 18. So 2 opportunities to clinch a playoff berth against the Las Vegas Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their first opportunity against the Raiders, they lost a heartbreaker. And they came out flat, to be honest with you, in that game. And then there's that game in week 18 against the Jags. The Jags boiled up Jonathan Taylor, and Carson Wentz was nowhere to be found. Their newly acquired quarterback in that last offseason, Carson Wentz, he blew it. He bombed. He flopped. And the Jaguars whooped their candy asses in Duval County. And the Colts went 9-8, but they missed out on the playoffs. They blew their chances to make the postseason. And as a result, a lot of the blame went to Carson Wentz. And it's a team effort, but when you look at Carson Wentz, he was not great in that 2021 season. And there were apparent reports that the locker room didn't like him because he was lacking leadership and accountability. And as a result, he got traded in the offseason to the Washington Commanders. So when you look at this 2022 season, you got a new quarterback by the name of Matt Ryan from Atlanta, and all you had to give them was a 3rd-round pick for him. And, of course, you have to tackle on his big-ass contract. So for the Indianapolis Colts, you're on your 5th quarterback in the last 5 years since Andrew Luck retired in 2019. Geez. You went from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz. Now you're on Matt Ryan. Are they ever going to have a stable quarterback? Geez. But who knows? Maybe could Matt Ryan have some sustainability, some stability for the Colts quarterback situation for who knows how long. So looking at some of their key offseason moves in the free agency and the draft, they re-signed their tight end Mo Alley-Cox and an outside linebacker by the name of Zaire Franklin. And looking at their additions, their signings. Now, yes, they were very quiet in free agency, and some people did not like that. But they added some nice pieces to their roster, like edge rusher Yannick Ngakoue in a trade for the Las Vegas Raiders. For all they had to give up was their corner, Rock Ya-Sin, mainly because the Raiders got Chandler Jones, and there wasn't really a need to have Yannick Ngakoue. So there's that. They also got corner Stephon Gilmore from the Carolina Panthers. So that was a big ad. That was a big ad by the Indianapolis Colts there. So that makes their defense even stronger. They also got free safety Rodney McLeod from the Philadelphia Eagles. So some depth behind Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard is a linebacker, but it is what it is. And then just in case Matt Ryan, doesn't do well, they got Nick Foles, yes, from the Chicago Bears. So just a little bit of insurance, a little insurance policy. So looking at the people that they lost, not really much to note. They lost 2 guards by the name of Mark Glowinski from the New York Giants, and guard Chris Reed from the Minnesota Vikings to the Minnesota Vikings, and their 3rd-string running back Marlon Mack to the Houston Texans. But again, considering when you already have a Pro Bowl running back in Jonathan Taylor and a solid pass-catching back and backup running back, Nyheim Hines, there wasn't really much for the Colts to do with Marlon Mack. So they just let him go. Now, looking at some of their draft picks, they did lose a 1st-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles because of the conditions Carson Wentz had. in 2021. So they started in the second round with a receiver by the name of Alec Pierce. He's a solid pickup. He should be a good number 2 option behind Michael Pittman Jr. Tight end, Jelani Woods. So it's kind of weird that they picked a tight end. Maybe he could serve as a backup from Virginia behind Mo Alley Cox. But, considering that they picked a tight end in the draft, it's weird. They picked a tackle from Central Michigan, Bernard Rainman. Who knows how he pans out. So for the Indianapolis Colts, the pickup for Matt Ryan was okay. I like this trade for him. You didn't really have to give up much, but you do have to take on this hefty contract. For the Colts, you just have to wonder how long you can go with Matt Ryan because, well, Matt Ryan's not getting younger. He's like almost hitting his 40s, and I get the fact that the quarterback class was very weak in this year's draft, but you have to start wondering, yes, you really have to start wondering, is Matt Ryan, will he be your guy? Can you help him get back to the Super Bowl and help him win the Super Bowl, whether it's this year or next year at some point? Because, well, you eventually have to draft his successor if he's going to stay in Indianapolis for the rest of his career. So that's something to consider. But I do think Matt Ryan still plays at a good level, a good enough level to make this offense pretty good, especially behind a strong offensive line. So Matt Ryan's going to be the key to elevating the rest of his offense. So who knows? Yannick Ngakoue, trading for him, I think that was a very good trade because, DeForest Buckner needs help in the pass rush, and getting Ngakoue, another edge rusher, definitely will make the Colts pass rush pretty damn good. Now, looking at some of their key games in the 2022 season, it's the whole month. It's literally the whole month of the season. You go to Houston, you go to Jacksonville. You're playing your 2 AFC South rivals right from the get-go, but you want to get your damn revenge on Jacksonville for how things ended. And now you're doing it with a new quarterback in Matt Ryan, who is not Carson Wentz. Then you return home for your home openers in, this is rough, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tennessee Titans. That is a rough opening slate at home. Patrick Mahomes and that Tennessee defense, that is rough. But, not impossible. Like, you almost beat the Colts. You almost beat the Titans last year. Just some weird decisions by Carson Wentz cost you. Who knows what Patrick Mahomes is going to be like without Tyreek Hill, and everyone's gonna go after Travis Kelce. So we'll see what happens there. And then you go to Denver the week after Tennessee to face Russell Wilson and that Denver Broncos offense. And that offensive line is pretty strong for Denver. And how are DeForest Buckner and Yannick Ngakoue going to attack and go after Russell Wilson, who is still a pretty good scrambler? So for the Indianapolis Colts, this is a pretty rough stretch for to start their season. Now, for the Colts, like I just wonder how their defense is going to fare after losing coordinator Matt Eberflus. Maybe there's some schematic changes or like how the pass rush operates. Hopefully nothing too crazy happens. Now, I'm just wondering, can the Colts make a surprise run? Can they run the table, win the AFC South? Because I do think that it's going to be either them or the Tennessee Titans that wins this division. And to be honest with you, the Colts, yes, they had a quiet offseason, but they didn't really need to do that much aside from the quarterback position, because Carson Wentz was not that great. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't that great last year, especially with the way things went down last year to end the season. And getting Matt Ryan, yes, he's much older than Carson Wentz, but he still plays at a good level, better than Carson Wentz. And you got a strong offensive line. that can protect Matt Ryan, and you got a Pro Bowl running back, an All Pro one that still young, in Jonathan Taylor, and you added a receiver to complement Michael Pittman Jr. and two tight ends in Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods, and then you got a good defensive pass rush, and is a linebacking core led by Darius Leonard. So overall, the Colts are pretty stacked. They are pretty stacked. Maybe their secondary could use some work, but overall, they are a stacked team. They can be a pretty good team. They just need some motivation, and they could make a surprise run. They just gotta come in every Sunday like they want it. So for the Indianapolis Colts, they could win 10 or 11 games this season. Whether they win the AFC South or make a playoff run, that remains to be seen. And that all depends on how Matt Ryan does in this new Indy offense.